Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. And this one is for Kyle, because we are now in season 12, episode 1. Kyle has wanted a new season for quite some time. He's got a Sixers hat on.
I mostly want new seasons so the old seasons can end. And I just took like a 3-week sabbatical, so I'm refreshed.
You're refreshed from the Outer Banks. We've got a new face, a new voice on The Scoop. Mike Livingston, transfer from Missouri. We got somebody out of the transfer portal. A Temple student who's going to be an assistant sports editor at the Temple News. A Philadelphia Inquirer intern. He's written stuff for us for Al Scoop. You're going to hear from him in a second. And Ryan Mack is with us too. You guys know Ryan, pretty much 127 years old in Al Scoop years now. Ryan's also going to continue to do stuff for the Inquirer. We've got a lot of stuff for you here on episode 1 of season 12. Preseason camp is here. You'll hear from Keeler on the quarterbacks. You'll hear Kyle, Ryan, Mike, and I talk about the team's greatest strength and its greatest perceived weakness as we sit here on August 6th, a little less than a month out from that season opener against Rhode Island, a pretty good FCS team, by the way. There's a season-ending injury that hurts this team, another roster development to get into, and we'll tell you what's ahead with preseason camp and answer your mailbag questions too. I want to remind you all that we are running a new subscription sale from now until August 12th. You can take advantage of our fall camp sale and get 75% off your first year of an Al Scoop membership. This is for new customers only. That comes down to just $29.99 for the entire year of the best Temple sports coverage you're going to find anywhere. So go to alscoop.com now, click on that link, and we're going to make sure, as we always say, that it is worth your while. Gentlemen, good to see all your faces. Kyle, you said you're refreshed. How was the Outer Banks?
Outer Banks is great. It's exactly what you think it is. It's my third time there in the last 5 years.
It's exactly what you think.
It's good weather. The kids love it. The kids are very much at like a stage where they love the beach, and it's a great beach spot.
It's a fine-looking beach.
That was on. It's a very good beach. So we're down there for 9 days. I realized if you're like not like a con man, but like a salesman, like a real estate agent, you come to me on day 3 of a vacation, you can convince me to move anywhere. Like on day 3 of vacation, I'm like the perfect, like, this is great down there. Here it's so much warmer. The people are nicer. Like I'm looking up things on Zillow. You could have sold me a condo on day 3. By day 7, day 8, I'm like, I want to go home. I want to go back to Philadelphia. And I found my way back. Got a speeding ticket on the way down. Did not get a speeding ticket on the way back.
Can you tell us about what you learned about the driving regulations in North Carolina that you were telling me about?
No. Wish it was North Carolina. I wish it was North Carolina.
Oh, it was Virginia, right?
It was Virginia. It's a day that'll probably live in Ryan's memory for a while. So 2 Fridays ago, which is July 24th, for those keeping track at home, I was on the second tunnel of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. And a great engineering feat, a notoriously shitty bridge. Like, you got to pay $117. You're going through 55 miles per hour. You're going up and down. Coming out of the second tunnel, I get a notification on my watch saying LeBron James has signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. I say, holy shit. My wife and my 2 kids go, what? What's wrong? I said, LeBron just signed with the Sixers. And my wife said, how about next time we're in a tunnel, you don't say holy shit about a basketball signing? I thought something was wrong. My wife is very nervous on the bridge, the tunnel, whatever. I'm telling her, I'm talking her off the cliff, whatever. You have to accelerate to come out of tunnels. Like you're underneath water. I'm underneath the entire bay. I'm coming out. As soon as I get out of there, a cop gets right behind me and pulls me over. Says I was going 77. I was not going 77. That's bullcrap. He knocked me down to 74 because 20 miles over the speed limit in the state of Virginia, which is where that part of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is considered a felony and is reckless driving. And you would have to go to mandatory court appearances and hope not to get a year in jail. Obviously, in practice, I'm sure it's very much like a pay a fine, don't do this again, whatever. But that's the fear of God they try putting into you. That's the DARE program they try putting into you. So instead, I now have this wonderful citation from the state of Virginia and $191 that I paid. And then the day after I paid it, I come home to like 6 different law firms in Virginia mailing me like, don't pay it. They're going to charge you $200 to put 5 points on your record. For $250, I can get 0 points on your record. Oh my God, well, I already paid it, so I don't have to tell you. But here we are.
Amazing.
But yeah, but in the end, LeBron James.
Mike's had some car mishaps too. Do you not want to get into that?
It's over now, John.
It's over.
It's over now. I got hit and run on the Atlantic City Expressway. Which
Yeah. Yeah.
I got ran a lot more than Kyle did though. I got my deductible is 1,000, but my boy, shout out Donnie Goldner, got me down to 500.
Everybody knows Donnie Golden.
Yeah,
I've
everyone
never- I don't-
Roxborough's best right there.
Oh, you went to Roxborough to get your
Yeah,
to the bridge
gotta
to
go
the
back to
bridge
the old-
to the Bridge Avenue region.
back to the old neighborhood to get the car fixed up. No, thanks for having me on, John.
No problem.
Been
So-
waiting for a while.
Mike and I are bosom buddies with this one. Meg ran into a wall in her new car like a month ago. We're in the process of getting that fixed.
It does take forever.
It takes forever. And you go to these collision things, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you're like, oh, cool. How quickly can you do that? 7 to 14 days. I'm like, it takes you 14 days to do this?
It's incredibly accurate.
Oh. So, Mike, you wanted to tell everybody you, in addition to writing for us for Al Scoop, and again, he's working at the Temple News, interning at the Inquirer. He was going back and forth, working at a restaurant in Cape May over the summer, and that is not a short commute from Cape May to Brigantine, going back and forth, and that's why you were out on the road late at night.
It is not a short commute. It is exactly an hour, as
Yeah.
I've learned, from Brigantine to beautiful Cape May, New Jersey.
Both good towns.
Yeah,
That is what-
solid towns.
That is what
Although I
landed-
promised you that Chelsea and I would get to that restaurant, and I broke that promise. We had to get there.
every night I went to the host
He leaves
stand,
one table.
went up to the host stand. I strolled through looking for the
They're like,
Carlo.
Mike, we're at
Never.
capacity. We need that table. Like, no, he's coming tonight. There's a candle. He lights a candle every day, just slowly melts.
No, he's gonna be here.
Tonight's the night. He promised me.
And it's a completely fake scenario, and it almost got me choked up.
What movie? What it wasn't Talladega Nights, where it was either a football movie or some sports movie where the guy left a.
Talladega Nights. He's leaving the tickets for his dad,
That's
and his
how-
dad gets them and just sells
no.
them.
That's how I felt
Jesus.
every night.
See, I'll tell Chelsea this, and she won't take my side. She'll take your side. Be like, well, why didn't we go over there? Don't make me look bad. So
What if you're on the other side? What if you're on Lewis? You're just like you're waiting for the ferry. You're like, I'm sorry, I got confused. It's a 2-hour turnaround. I won't be able to make it tonight.
we didn't take the fast ferry. Let's shift the focus over to Ryan. Ryan, what do you want to tell us? How's life? You were dog sitting recently. You were telling us that you've been banished to someone else's room. You got a new apartment. What's been going on in your life? You've been a jack of all trades recently. Got to deal with the Sixers drastically improving their roster. Let's just say something, anything.
No, nothing. Nothing really. I'm in my younger brother's room now because he's in Scotland for 2 weeks. He literally gets back I think the day after I moved back to Philly. So unfortunate timing over there, and then he goes to school literally the next week. So I'm just chilling, just ready for the year to start. Honestly,
Jack of all trades is a backhanded compliment.
Is it?
What's the second part of the phrase?
Oh, master of none. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah. You seem like you're
You've
doing a
got-
lot,
tell us-
Ryan. You're not doing anything particularly well.
I said to Mike, you're going to learn about the Kyle Gauss experience. He's like, that seems rude. And
Yeah, that was rude.
This is it. This is it. He keeps on.
That was rude.
It's just John's wit.
Deep-seated decades worth of resentment.
Tell people before we get into the Temple football coverage here that everybody's looking for. Tell us about the summer internship. You covered a Jets preseason camp practice.
Yeah, I'm up at AM New York, so I've been doing it was crazy because the first day I actually started I'm in the middle of the Knicks NBA Finals stuff. So the first day I started was Game 3. So it was covering watch parties and stuff there, and also same stuff at the World Cup. So that's been fun, commuting back and forth to New York City and back. And yeah, so and now with the Jets training camp started, I've been helping out with Jets training camp coverage. It's been really fun.
How do you guys think? How do you guys think Joe Namath is going to be this year? I think Al Toon's going to have 100 catches this year. No, I'm kidding. You know what you're doing. That was what was it like covering a Jets camp practice?
Yo, it was fun. That was probably I'm so used to it. I'm used to everything Temple, and that's been probably one of the craziest experiences switching up being in New York now for the summer, and I'm used to everything Philly based I not that I know everything in the back man, but I'm so used to it I'm so used to covering the city of Philly, so having to do a different city was really different and trying to learn everything as best I can and everything like that. So it was fun, honestly.
Good. At least that was fun for your summer because the rest of it from a pro sports. Well, no, you're a Red Sox fan, so you've got that going for you.
Hottest team in baseball right now.
No, they are not.
Wait,
Yes, they are. Yes,
I could hear Kyle.
No,
on
they are
mute.
not.
Yes,
Who
they
has
are.
the longest winning streak in baseball right now? It's not them.
We've lost like 4 games since July 2nd.
Sure.
Okay?
When did you start playing for them?
Yeah.
They have lost 4 games since July
I didn't
2nd.
realize you got
They
called
actually have
out.
the same winning streak as the Braves, but they're 5.5 games back though. It's kind of, I don't want to say insurmountable, but
From where they were,
yeah, they dug themselves quite the hole.
Mhm.
It's a long season. Look, you can't cheat baseball, right?
got Adley Rushman. Shout out Colin Schofield.
Been on the IL for half the year.
Hey, but I got to make fun of him about it after they traded him to Colin, and that's what made my heart full, honestly.
Yes,
gotta
it's not
shout
so
out-
much that you should win.
We got to shout out Colin. Got a job as a sports editor in Goshen, Indiana. I told Kyle that, although Kyle texted me and said, Colin's going to Goshen. I told Colin that you would be a great Indiana resource for him.
Did you tell him my impressions of Goshen, Indiana?
I did not.
Okay.
I'm sure it's going to be a different pace of life, but he's going to be covering high schools out there. He's going to be covering some Notre Dame football. So very, very cool opportunity for him.
Shout out the Goshen Redhawks.
Yeah.
It's their high school.
Did you just
Their
know
high
that
school
off the
is
dome, or were you that prepared?
I knew it in passing.
Mhm.
I only had to look up the name of the high school to
Okay.
know the name. So I'm going to give myself half credit there.
Mike Livingston prepared to pivot when we talk.
What do you think the name of the Goshen College mascot is? I'll tell you this: it's a professional sports name.
The Bears.
No, good guess. Proximity, it's good. Go further north. Well,
The
actually,
Lions. The Goshen Lions.
Maple Leaves.
Oh,
Interesting.
That's weird.
Interesting. The official leaf of Goshen, Indiana. How far is Goshen, Indiana from Muncie, Indiana?
2 hours, 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah, Muncie is like near like the Ohio border.
I don't know. How do we segue out of this into Temple
Indiana.
football talk?
Rod Carey, Temple football.
ooh.
All right. Hopefully, we're going to be covering a season that is not reminiscent of the Rod Carey era here. So we have a lot of preseason camp updates for you guys. We'll hit you with some of those updates first, and then Ryan, Kyle, Mike, and I will get into some of the X's and O's of what we saw on Wednesday. Ryan and I were at practice. In terms of the schedule, just to give you a quick overview here, Temple practice Wednesday. That session was open to the media in its entirety. The Owls are practicing again Thursday and Friday. Those sessions are not open to the media. Saturday's practice is, so Ryan and Jacob Marino will have our coverage Saturday. Mike, you might be back
I got
there.
my car now.
He's got a car there, so he's going to be there as well.
Mobile.
Yes,
Hell
he's
yeah.
mobile. He is on wheels again.
On wheels, yes.
Otherwise, you're going to have to walk there, which is going to be a long trip from Brigantine. So, but Saturday's a big media availability day. Jaxon, Smolik, and Ajani Sheppard are talking. Offensive coordinator Tyler Walker is talking. Offensive line coach Al Johnson is talking. And then offensive lineman Grayson Maines and John Stone are going to be talking too. So we will be bringing you a lot of coverage at owlscoop.com this weekend. Their first padded practice is going to be on August 11th. So right now, shirts and shells or shorts and shells, whatever they say. So just basically helmets and shoulder pads. So if you read our preseason camp position preview series, again, another reason why you should subscribe to owlscoop.com. Most of those stories in that 11-part series are behind a paywall for subscribers. So again, $30 for the entire year. Great time to sign up. So if you read that preseason camp position preview series, we told everyone to look out for an injury update on Devontae Ward-Grant. He got hurt in the Trey and White game. Casey Keeler said Wednesday that Devontae Ward-Grant unfortunately tore his ACL in the spring game, and he's going to miss the season. Because this happened before the 5-for-5 rule went into effect, they're going to petition for him to get a 5th year back. It obviously hurts them because he was competing for a starting job at that position, one that Casey Keeler is still calling a, quote, a mystery. So we'll have more on that later. When I asked Casey about Devontae Ward-Grant, here's what he said.
Ward-Grant is going to be out, and he's coming off an ACL that's going to go through the season. And we've applied for a 5th year for him because the way it works is before July 31st, if you request the old rule of a red shirt because of an injury, and so he should get granted that extra year, which would be great for him. This was, he and I talked about it. Every obstacle is an opportunity, and he really, even though he would have competed to be a starter for us this year, he really needs a year in the weight room. And so that's how we're looking at it. It's like, it's a great year for you to just like get your body bigger, stronger, and faster, and we'll get him back next year. But that was disappointing because it happened in the spring game. Was nothing that you would watch the tape and say, oh, I can see that happen. Just, something just, landed wrong. But he was definitely competing for a starting job at the corner spot.
All right, so we're going to be talking about that cornerback position soon. On the Sekou Kromah front, we've been telling you on our football board that despite the attention that his legal situation received as a former Temple football player who was seeking that fifth year back, it wasn't looking likely that he was going to come back. New Jersey Superior Court judge granted him an injunction that's going to get him that fifth year, but Casey said Wednesday that he's unlikely to end up back at Temple, and here's Casey Keeler talking about that on Wednesday.
You never can tell how these things are going to go because the order is basically signed saying he should have 5 years. There's nothing about any injuries or anything like that. It's basically he should get 5 years. So I guess they found a judge that, believed in those guys getting 5 years. And so that's great for him. But the reality is it's happened so late. It would be really hard for us financially to, be able to compensate him the money that he would deserve. And the other thing is, we're at our limit scholarship-wise. And I think in the offseason that defensive line got pretty cohesive. All the new guys came in. So I think it's one of those things where we're hoping that he finds the right home. But I also think it's our responsibility, if he can't find a home, that we make something available for him. So I say that because it just happened so late. He's a single digit. He's a great kid. He's a heck of a football player. We want what's best for him. I don't know right now if this would work coming back here for him or for us. If he has no other options, then obviously it would work for him. So, yeah, I think, there's probably going to be a team out there. You can't find pass rushers. And he's a guy that can bump out and play and also. And so there's probably going to be someone out there that missed on somebody or had an injury in the spring or something that might be able to give him an opportunity. And we'll be rooting for him. So we just figure, let's let this thing play out. Unfortunately, it happened so late that we're all now in this situation. But there was a sense of loyalty there where he was a single digit. He played hard here. He got injured here. He rehabbed here. He got his degree from here. That if he can't find a home, and I'd be shocked if he couldn't, then I think that's when we have to have a conversation about, is there any way we can. But right now, I thought we did a really good job spending the money we had. And, there's just not a whole lot of options there.
More on the roster here. So Casey also said Wednesday that Darius Pope, the incoming freshman wideout from Middletown High School in Delaware, who enrolled early, took part in spring drills, is suspended indefinitely for an off-the-field issue. We'll see how that plays out. And Casey said he wants to see how it plays out. So fortunately for Temple, that's a position of depth. Colin Chase is healthy. JoJo Bermudez is healthy. Chase Freeman looks kind of like a Kajai Hollowing clone. You have DeMonte Green, Reese Stocksdale there. Xander Baptiste looked pretty good Wednesday. So Pope being out either temporarily or even permanently isn't going to hurt them this season. How good he eventually becomes, either at Temple or somewhere else, remains to be seen. Two more injury updates to pass along. Ramir Hardy, the St. Joe's Prep product, had a head injury during the spring, but that's not what's keeping him out right now. He had core surgery during the offseason. He was in shorts and pads, just like everyone else Wednesday, but he was working out off to the side. And then freshman quarterback Lamar Best from St. Joe Montvale led them to a state championship. He's coming off shoulder surgery that he had after that senior high school season, but that's not what kept him out Wednesday. He was thrown to the wideouts in their position drills, and his throwing motion looked fine, but Casey said that he rolled his ankle, and it's going to be another week or so before he's fully out there with the rest of the quarterbacks. We're going to talk more about more practice details here and there, but I just want to remind everybody again, another benefit of subscribing to the site is after practice, we are going to put soon after our observations about Luke, who's running with the first team, second team, third team, more of the nuts and bolts of practice are going to go right on our football board right away. So again, $29.99 for the entire year now if you subscribe. So every practice we're at, which is going to be every one, you're going to get right after practice is over. We're going to put a lot of details about, with proper caveats and context. Again, coaches are rolling in, get different guys to get them reps in certain situations. But, we're going to talk about that here. There haven't been a ton of surprises after day one that we've seen. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. We'll get into this, and then we'll talk of, like I said, about what we feel the biggest position of strength is, and then the biggest concern is. So I asked KC about the quarterbacks, about Jaxon Smolik, about Ajani Sheppard, and if there's a timetable for that decision. And here's our exchange from Wednesday's media session.
Casey, with the quarterbacks last year, you had two guys that had starting experience. This year, you're going to be prepping a guy who was not starting. With that in mind, do you guys feel like you want to make the decision quicker this year because you have to prepare the guy?
Yeah, you hope.
Or do you let it go?
Well, you hope one steps up. The problem is they both kind of have unique skill sets. And so, like, you can see a world where there's going to be a need, to. I never love, say we're playing two quarterbacks. But I've been in package situations before where I've had guys who, like, red zone package, short yardage package, whatever it may be, one guy fits better than the other guy does. So I think we wait to see. It was really tough to get an evaluation today, obviously, because just, how wet the balls were and, all those kind of things. And I also think the defense, has made a huge jump from last year. I see a lot less guys running free down the field. I see a lot of guys, velcroed to the wide receivers and running backs and tight ends. But the hope is that one of those guys steps up. And like I said, I thought it was a pretty good back and forth all spring, and then just the spring game that Jaxon had. It obviously, like, that's what you're hoping our quarterback can play like this season. But I don't think it was something where the whole spring it was like he dominated, so he's our guy. I think it's like, okay, give me that Jaxon. If we get that Jaxon, let's go. But again, I think we all feel Johnny has a special skill set too that we're working through to figure out which way to go.
So you don't have a timeline yet?
No, I'll talk to Tyler about that. I think it's one of those things where, like, during training camp, you'll get a feel. This is happening faster than I thought it was going to happen, or this is going to be like molasses. It's going to be. I just don't think now you can figure out. You always hate to put an arbitrary date on it because, it just doesn't work out the way you thought. I remember Joe Flacco and Ryan Carty going back and forth, and it was like back and forth until the last scrimmage. And you didn't think it was going to be back and forth. I love Ryan. Ryan was a pretty good little football player too. Joe ended up being the 18th overall pick. So obviously Joe had this unique skill set. But it took us a while because Ryan just kept on fighting, and kept on putting himself in position where you couldn't legitimately say Joe was the better one. And so, everything, will work out, but we don't know what the time frame will be.
Ryan, I want to ask you about this with the caveat that obviously it rained, torrential downpour that you drove through from the Trenton area, and it let up around like 9:15 or so. So, you could say the KC Keeler was making a little bit of an excuse, but he was right. The field was wet. The balls were wet. Ryder Cush had a couple of drops. Neither one of those quarterbacks, I think, again, we'll say this a million times, it's one day, neither one of them looked ready to win the job. Jaxon Smolik did not look like the Jaxon Smolik that we saw in the spring game. And you heard KC Keeler say that, like, if you give me that Jaxon, let's go. But what were your impressions of what you saw yesterday from the quarterbacks and the offense? Because the defense was, it sounds so trite and cliche, but defense was ahead of the offense at this point.
Yeah, you are right in that point. Like, especially with just the defensive line, just kind of like get pressure on both Smolik and Sheppard. My main thing is what was it just looked a little bit sloppy for me.
Mhm.
It felt like
Yes.
and not inconsistent. You could kind of see it on times where there's times where like Jaxon would have like he had a good ball to Xander Baptiste on a fly route that looked good, but then he missed like JoJo Bermudez like, coming out of fade, and it was like somewhere where JoJo was like wide open. Then Ajani Sheppard kind of had the same thing. He had Tyler Mitchell wide open, like kind of on like a slant route, then missed him. But on the next play, he had Cohen Logan open, got him the ball right away, and then had Mitchell again on the next play and got him. So it was just like really, really just like inconsistent. You couldn't really like figure out. It was like a one step forward, a couple steps back on plays. The only thing that I really noticed too, Jaxon Smolik kind of stood out a little bit more was when the pressure was getting back to, was when the defensive line was able to pressure him. he did a good job of being able to use his legs and just extend plays. And whether it was rolling out and being able to find the receiver or being able to roll out and then just make a run for maybe like 5 to 10 yards, he did a little bit of a better job of just doing that, evading the pressure. He felt a little bit more, towards the end of practice, he felt a little bit more comfortable in the pocket a little bit. Something that Ajani Sheppard just didn't really have. Not that he didn't have, but like he was more so oblivious to the pressure that was coming in. Those are kind of my main takeaways.
Mike, I wanted to throw this out to you because I feel like we had this conversation back during spring ball. And I remember you kind of saying to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you'd said, I feel like the coaches they want Jaxon to win the job and he's got to do it. And it sounded that way again yesterday, where Casey was like, if you give me that Jaxon, let's go. I know you weren't able to be there yesterday, but how do you see this playing out? Do you still feel, I don't want to say it's his job to lose because he still has to go out and earn it. And even when I said to KC, like, do you want to wrap this up quicker? Because, last year you might have been able to be more content to let it go farther out because you had two guys that had started before. But we had that conversation, right? Where you said, like, I feel like they want Jaxon to win the job. You just got to take it. You still feel like that way where they're kind of just saying, like, it's there for you. You just got to go do it.
I feel like it's completely a matter of what you can and cannot say at this point, because I do actually feel like it's Jackson's job to lose.
Yeah.
And in the most respectful way to Jaxon, he obviously has not earned that title, the title of being able to go in and have that job to lose. He and Ajani should be in the same spot. I don't necessarily understand from the jump why Jaxon had that advantage. Never really made sense to me. I felt like they were pretty much on the same level. And in most aspects, I felt like Ajani was a little more adept to being that starter from the start. But it always has felt like Jaxon has had that edge. He's always been he's always been the first unit of those first team reps. And Keeler always talks a little more friendly. I don't know how to word it. A little bit more friendly to the fact when talking about Jaxon in press conferences. And I feel like through the first half towards the middle of spring camp, Ajani was the better quarterback. I know a lot of people like to say that they were right on the same level, and maybe they were production-wise, but the fact that Ajani looked so much more composed, it's so niche, and it's such a little thing, but it did so much for me because he never looked troubled. And Jaxon sort of looked like he was on a different plane than that for most of the spring. And that did so much for me. I mean, obviously Jaxon came around towards the end and he started doing what a Penn State recruit does. And that took a lot of people's attention. And at the same time, I feel like we're almost building a complex in a lot of people's minds right now, because the second we see Jaxon start running and gunning all the time, doing so well, stuff that maybe Ajani was starting to do a little bit earlier, we jump right on that. But wait a minute, Ajani was doing that 2 weeks ago. Why did we not get excited over that?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily anyone's fault, but Jaxon has always seemed to have that little bit of a advantage, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I've seen.
I think the stark difference between their spring games stood out. But again, that shouldn't be the only determinant. And so we're not dealing with either guy. Again, it's not that, I mean, look, it took Evan Simon a while to win the job last year, and he had some starting experience. Giovanni McCoy, that just didn't work out. Like at one point, he was one of the best FCS quarterbacks in the entire country, had ups and downs at Oregon State. Kyle, how do you see this playing out? Do you think it's just a matter of time before they name Jaxon as the starter, or do you feel like Ajani has the chance to make a move here, but has to make it quickly?
I think that second part's definitely true. You have to do a quickly part. I think Keeler talked about that this week, where he said last year you were kind of okay going through the deadline because both of them had started before. You're okay with just pulling the trigger on one of them. Neither of these players have really played much of at all at the collegiate level, so I think you need to almost make a decision in the next week, 10 days, so that way you can give them 2-3 weeks of starter reps and start getting it in there. I think one thing that kind of, and this is one of the things I'm going to say and just try to convince myself to say it as I'm saying it, one of the things I think kind of works against Ajani is his unique skill set of like his speed. Because I think when you're a coach and you're going in a situation where you're like, okay, I have two quarterbacks I'm in a competition with, it's easier for them to envision, well, if I go with Jaxon, I can still find a way to get Ajani onto the field, right? Like I can use him in certain sets. I can use him in red zone as a dual threat option. I can do all these things. When if it was reversed, you go, well, if I'm starting Ajani, I can't really see a scenario where I'm taking him out to put in Jaxon. Like I think it is kind of easier for coordinators and staffers and coaches to visualize getting both on the field if Jaxon is the 90% guy and Ajani is the complementary piece.
So again, we'll see how this continues to play out. I still think that, Casey did say, you heard him on our conversation, in the question and answer period on Wednesday. He said, I don't want to put an arbitrary date on it because when you do that, you kind of hem yourself in. But I'd have to think that they're going to want to get a starter name sooner rather than later so you can prep this person to be a starter. You heard him also say, I hesitate to say I want to play two quarterbacks, but there could be packages. I mean, I think Ajani probably has a tad stronger of an arm than Jaxon does, but we'll see. I feel like it's still trending Jackson's way, but again, 1 day sample size in the summer. Both of them had some very rusty moments in their first practice on Wednesday.
To be fair, I mean, to kind of put this in perspective, and you mentioned this, last year when it went to the deadline, it really went into the actual, warm-ups against UMass. There was plenty of talk during the preseason camp of, both guys looked rusty out there. Neither of them have really taken this over. And then Evan Simon throws for 6 touchdowns in the first game. So preseason ball is a huge grain of salt.
And also, there are some guys, and again, we don't know this yet because neither one of them have started a game. Like either one of these guys could be the one that looks like so in practice, and they just look great in a game when the lights come on. So we shall see. Let's go through a little, not necessarily rapid fire here, but I want to look at what you guys think is their greatest position of strength, and then a greatest position of a position of concern. I know we got into this a little bit, areas for optimism, areas for concern in the position previews, but let's look at what you think their strongest position is right now on August 6th, and then the position that concerns you the most. Ryan, I'll start with you.
For probably their biggest strength, I'm gonna have their defensive line. And that's just because they've tried so much to just bolster it during the transfer portal, where last year, in those first four games of the season, you had Cameron Stewart being able to get pressure and be able to get sacks, but that was really far and away, was not able to happen towards the back end of the year, ended up hurting the secondary. And now I feel like they tried to be able to bolster with the fact of, okay, we have edge rushers where we can get pressure, but we also are able to stop the run. And I think with just the revolving door of defense tackles they have, I think that's something that we're not going to be able to see as much this year. Obviously, we can only say that on August 6th, and they don't have their first game until September 5th. There's only so much that we can say, but that's probably my position, the biggest strength right now. And weakness is something that we've been talking about a little bit today. That's their cornerbacks.
I feel like we're all going to say the cornerbacks probably.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Even Casey said it. This is one of the biggest mysteries of the team. He said that in spring. He said that in spring ball. Even yesterday with Devontae Ward Grant being out, that was someone who was fighting for a starting spot and had a chance to be the starter. And obviously, you can say something where they have they have faith in Denzel and Adrian Lang, where they only really brought in 2 JUCO guys and didn't add anyone during the actual transfer portal period. But it can also be said that they are both only had 1 combined start. And while Nikhil Lawrence and Ocelot were good on the JUCO level, you're not sure how that can actually translate. And then you have a player like Oral Cope and Jet White who haven't really played, or Bryson Goodwin who got moved to cornerback and he was at wide receiver. It's just not sure how this is actually going to go. And even Casey said that's probably the biggest question mark of the team. So that's why I have to say that, especially with lost your 2 starters in Jalen Castleberry and Ben Oswege, and they the last couple of years have always had issues on the outside. We said that in 2025, said that in 2024, said that in 2023. So it's just always kind of been a consistent thing.
All right, Mike, how about you? Position of strength, where you think they're strongest, and then a position that gives you the greatest amount of concern right now.
Biggest position of strength would definitely be safety for me.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the top, they go 6 deep.
Mm-hmm.
6 guys who can play on any given day between Avery Powell, Sabor Kareem, Jaden Good, Josiah Jackson, Pulak, and Colin Dinkins. There's 6 guys who you can slot in on any given Saturday and say, go out there, start the game for me. And for the most part, you can rely on them to be all right. Some more than others, but that's not something you're going to get, I think, at any other position on this roster at a spot, especially at a spot where you need 2 of them. Weakness, the same thing that Ryan said. We're all going to say it. It's cornerback. You look at Denzel Chavis, Adrian Lang. Your cornerback 3 is Nikhil Lawrence. No disrespect to Nikhil Lawrence. It's just that's not necessarily the spot that you want to be in, especially when you look at it. You got one or two more guys until you're into your bed of freshmen at the bottom of that depth chart. It's not an ideal situation. One injury and you're looking at severe inexperience.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about bringing in Nikhil Lawrence and Asa Locks, and again, this could change, but as Ryan, pointed out in his preview, it was typically Denzel and Adrian running with the ones, and then Asa Locks and Nikhil Lawrence were running with the twos. That's how it started off yesterday. Now, again, those guys have JUCO experience. This August is a time for okay, Earl Culp, you were good enough to be recruited to Purdue. What can you show us? Jet White, he was a highly rated guy at one point. Can they make some sort of ground here, gain some ground? Instead, Dylan Abram, I don't know that those guys are going to play right away, but there's an opportunity there. But when it comes to Locks and Nikhil Lawrence, they've had the spring, and now again, we could be having a different conversation. Maybe in these couple practices that we're not covering this week, maybe those guys step up to the forefront. But yeah, when the head coach keeps calling it a position of mystery, another thing to point out here, and he said something that Clayton Barnes said back in the spring, and I said, so what is it that you need to see? And he's like, they need to make a play. A lot of times they're in position. Now I need them to go make a play. So Clayton talked about that back in the spring. If you read Ryan's position preview, you'll see what I'm talking about, where he talked about kind of the differences between the two perceived starters right now, about what guy's in position needs to make a play, the other guy not being in position as much but can make a play. So that's got to even itself out there at some point. Casey Keeler, again, on Wednesday said, still a bit of a mystery. I like the talent level there, but someone's got to step forward. Kyle, what about you? Position, greatest strength, and then weakness.
Yeah, I don't want to completely just regurgitate what people say. So I guess to point out a position of strength, I do think the running back room has a potential to be successful. I think you have 3 guys there that have had success at the FBS level. One, obviously, on a much smaller scale, like Kevion Mason. I want to talk a little bit about, we've mentioned the safeties, we mentioned the cornerbacks. Not that depth isn't as important at cornerback, but it's not as important. Safeties, they will roll out. Last year they played 7-8 safeties. They rolled them out constantly, especially when you consider the Viper situation part of that group. They pretty much played 2 corners all year, and then Denzel played a little bit. Denzel definitely factored in towards the end. He was the 3rd corner, but it was Jalen Casper and Bennett Swake the entire time. Mm-hmm. So if they can find 2 guys out there, which if this was 2006, 2016, you would go, well, it's Denzel, it's Adrian. They're the natural next people up. They were local recruits. You built them up, blah, blah. With the transfer portal and with college football being what it is today, people just aren't really used to that anymore. They want plug and play. These guys need to have proven that they're good, and then they need to come to Temple and be good. It's just not how it's going to work at that position at Temple. Temple's going to have to develop guys or go the JUCO route. I'm not quick to immediately dismiss Nikhil Lawrence as well, if Nikhil Lawrence is your 3rd corner, because that's a guy that's played a lot of football at the JUCO level. Probably, honestly, maybe their most experienced corner in that room, just at a different level. So I think ideally they want Denzel and Adrian to kind of take that position and go for it. I think that's a situation where if you hit, it doesn't matter that you came into August and September with limited FBS experience, because those guys will probably play 95% of the snaps the entire game, and you go from there. Obviously, the downside of that is, 1, you're 1 injury away from, oh crap, now you're further down. And then 2, you got to hope you hit, because if you don't hit, then we've covered a lot of Temple seasons where it's just they just don't have a guy that you can line up there on the field and just say, go shut that guy down. So I think corner is obviously the position of concern. I think running back is a position of strength. I also am a little more bullish on safeties like Mike is. I think there's a lot of potential there, especially when you consider that Viper position. But yeah, I'll go with running backs and corners.
I'm with you guys at the risk of being a dead horse here. You guys have made your good points about the corners. I'll go with wide receiver as a position of strength. I think, Jojo Bermudez has to prove that he can, there were times where he was banged up. Colin Chase has been banged up at times, but I think they know what they have in Colin. They know what they have in Jojo. Jace Freeman, like I said before, almost looks like a Kajaya Holloway clone with more proven college experience, albeit at the FCS level coming in. I think he looks the part. He got a little, I don't know if he was dehydrated at the end of yesterday's practice, looked a little sick and out of it, but I think he's going to be fine. they seem pretty high on Xander Baptiste. Looked the part yesterday. I think he's starting to make a move a little bit. They seem very, very encouraged by what they have in Cohen Logan. When I interviewed him when he committed, he struck me as a guy that's really, really smart. He knows all three positions. Reese Stocksdale, we'll see. He was running with the twos. And you also have DeMonte Green too, a D2 transfer. But I think they're deep there. You do have some proven production with JoJo, with Colin. Jace Freeman again has not proven it at Temple. I think that's an area of strength for me. I will talk about this in the mailbag. I want to say the offensive line, but I think one of the things we're looking at is like, are they healthy and consistent, or are they actually good? And I think that's a conversation that we're going to be having again. I'll save more time for this from the mailbag. The quarterbacks were under pressure a lot yesterday. Now, is that because Jalen Joseph is that good, that Kevin Hornbeek is that good? Ryan's position of strength was defensive line, but we are talking about like Kevin Hornbeek has to prove it at this level. They have some traitsy guys up there. I think the offensive line could be good, if not very good, but I think they still have another discernible step to take there. Some news to pass along that just came up as we started recording here. Temple announced its 2026 class Hall of Fame. So some names that you're going to recognize here: Bruce Arians, former football coach, who of course went on to a very decorated NFL career; Brandon Matthews from men's golf, who's now a pro golfer; Jerry Prosciutti, Nadine Bridgeforth Richardson, Wally Hayes, Dr. Walter Strasser, Rebecca Joseph from women's lacrosse, and then of course Mark Tyndale, who was part of the John Chaney era and then the Fran Dunphy era, is now on the Knicks staff; Tyler Matakevich, who's on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot; and then Amber Youts from the field hockey program, played Temple field hockey from 2011 to 2014. So congratulations to all of them. All right, we're going to jump into the mailbag here. More lively mailbag this week. Questions from Twitter, questions from the message board. Got a question texted to me. So first question comes to us from Ed Helinski on Twitter. What's your impression of the team or specific players from the first practice? I mean, we've obviously talked a lot about what we saw on Wednesday. I think, Ed, to answer your question in a roundabout way quickly, and I'll get out of the way here and let the other guys chime in. Well, I'll let Ryan chime in on this one because he and I were there. Not a ton to report on the first day. I think the first team offensive line was what you would have expected. Luke Watson at right tackle, Jackson Pruitt at right guard, Grayson Maines at center, Eric King at left guard, and then Jacoby Hills at left tackle. A lot of first team guys that you would have expected. But I mean, my lasting impression was that it was kind of a typical first day and there's still a lot to do. And they did look a little rusty getting out onto the field after the rain. Like I said, there were drop passes. Ryder Cush struggled with drops. Sam Brown dropped the pass in the flat. So not a ton to report, but when you see some of the same first and second team units looking out there or running out there, you could say, okay, there's not a ton of variance right now. Depending on how you look at that, you could say, are these guys just not getting pushed, or are they consistently playing well? You know, I don't want to spoil it. There's a question coming up here from Sunny Owl in terms of a freshman, but general impression, you know, we talked about a lot of the specific players we're looking at in terms of the quarterbacks, but I would say Xander Baptiste looked pretty good. I don't know if we actually mentioned it yet, but Jameer Diaz, the Sam Houston State transfer, there was a pass late in practice, right, Ryan? Was it Quante Gillians who batted it down? And then Jameer was there, took it right in. I mean, you only had a few yards to run, but a pick six, opportunistic. The edge rushers do look sharp. So again, that it could be that very well be that defensive line is really going to be good, and that the offensive line is just that there's give and take and there's back and forth there. But impression of the team would be like they're working out some kinks, a lot of work to do after one practice, but that's not necessarily rare. Ryan, anything else you want to add here to Ed's question?
Not really. Like it was sloppy. That's just because of the rain in the first practice. We talked about like Xander coming like being like a really good option at wide receiver. Another person also too on the defensive side, Sabor was all over the field. They looked like a drop on Ryder early, but like in like the first session, Sabor came in and was able to come get a tip on it. He had another nearly interception when they were doing sevens after practice, and then he had a really good coverage on JoJo like when he got into his zone. So like he was someone that like looked really good yesterday too.
Sunny Al, one of our loyal listeners, has a two-part question for us. Question number one, is there a freshman's name you think we could hear quite a bit this fall camp? If so, who? Kyle, Mike, I want to toss this out to you guys. Ryan and I were there yesterday, but is there, in an ideal world, unless you've got a blue chipper, you want to bring your freshmen along slowly if you can retain them, but is there a freshman who you think could pop?
I'll just say this from my this is what I think the depth chart is right now. I don't have a freshman on the two deep, whatsoever. To be honest, I only have 4 sophomores on the two deep, so this should be a pretty upperclassman-led team. I think if there is one, you kind of just have to a little bit of talent versus what positions can you actually play as a freshman. I think most of the time it's unrealistic to expect an offensive lineman to come in and play as a true freshman, even though John Watkins might have that opportunity down the line. I would say just running back is kind of where I think, that's where it's easy to pinpoint. I'll say RJ Blunt or Amir Morrow could get in there if that position gets dinged up, which it's prone to get dinged up. And then I think Cohen Logan has a shot with Ramir Hardy being out to kind of maybe carve out a role at wide receiver.
Yeah. Mike, what are you thinking? And Brian, I'll get over to you as well. What freshmen do you think have a shot of maybe, like Kyle said, if that's the metric, maybe eventually cracking the two deep? And guys, I mean, the question here is a freshman's name that we could hear quite a bit this fall camp. What are you anticipating in terms of freshmen to watch?
Well, Kyle took both of mine, and RJ Blunt and Cohen Logan are really the only two I see realistically.
Ryan, what are you thinking on this one?
I'm not trying to piggyback off of Mike and Kyle,
You
but
can
I'm
do that.
gonna say,
You can piggyback.
but I'm gonna go Cohen Logan. Even Colin Chase said it yesterday, where he's working with the upperclassmen. He's working with them, and he also looks the part, where he is right where the quarterback needs to be when they on cuts when the ball's coming out. Johnny found him a couple good throws, and so did Jaxon. So I feel, not saying that he's going to be getting time once the season actually starts, but maybe you see him get in the mix. But like Kyle said, maybe since Ramir's out, him being able to get a little bit more just burn and more reps will obviously help him develop, and I could see him getting his name called a little bit more as fall camp kind of progresses.
Yeah, I would agree on Cohen Logan, would agree on the running backs with RJ Blunt or Amir Morrow. Cohen Logan has looked good. They've talked about him a lot. John Watkins was getting some second team reps at left tackle. In an ideal world, you don't want him to play this year, but of all the freshman linemen coming in,
It doesn't matter now. I don't think we can do that in an ideal world thing anymore.
Yeah, not so much that, but in terms of just experience. I mean, you'd rather, obviously, anybody can say this, you'd rather Jacoby Hills take that next step where you're he's as good as advertised, and you can bring Watkins along slowly. But again, you could lose John Watkins to the portal next year. A guy I'll put out there, because it's a position to watch, they are going to have to identify who their third quarterback is. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on Brady Palmer, and I'm going to be a pessimist here for a second. What if Jaxon, Smolik, and Ajani Sheppard both just don't cut it? What if neither one of them work out? I think they're going to give them every chance out of camp. Obviously, one of those two guys is going to start.
Right.
But if we're 5-6 games into the season and Jaxon, Smolik, and Ajani Sheppard have both been too erratic, whether it's Brady Palmer or maybe Lamar Best, I think is just a tad too far behind. He didn't have the benefit of spring ball. Looks like he's got a decent arm, and obviously was a very good quarterback at St. Joe Montdale. But I think that number 3 quarterback position, instead, not just in terms of who's their third quarterback going to be, but what if that third quarterback has to play? And Brady Palmer has looked like the guy so far. It doesn't mean that Brody Norman could make a move. Doesn't mean that Lamar Best couldn't make a move, but I'm at least keyed in on seeing how, what kind of a camp he has. They wouldn't want him to start this year. You want Jaxon or you want Ajani to step forward there, but what if they don't? I think you're going to have to probably go to a guy like Brady Palmer. I think he's looked pretty sharp. He seemed like the number 3 quarterback coming out of spring ball. Maybe a corner, again, I mentioned them earlier. Maybe there's a shot that Dylan Abram or instead out of Roman Catholic, the two local guys. Dylan Abram was at Monsignor Bonner Prendy, and he instead maybe a corner. So
I want to go back to the quarterback thing real quick.
Yeah,
I think it sounded like Mike was going to say something too, but it's not a probability, but it's not an impossibility that you start a third quarterback in a season. Last year was the first year. I think we talked about this going in. Last year was the first year in 6-7 years that Temple just started the same quarterback every game. Mm-hmm. For the most part, it's a situation where multiple guys are going to get a whack at it, whether that's just Jaxon and Ajani, or if it becomes a situation where, Brady or Brody or Lamar Best find their way in there. I think that third quarterback is a very important position battle.
Did Cam Boykin fall off the face of the earth?
No, that's fair. That's completely fair.
that's
But he's not a
fair.
freshman. The question was about freshmen, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just about quarterback.
Yeah,
in
about
general.
freshman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But no, but to your point, that's completely fair. Like, he's been in the system. He wasn't a guy they recruited, to be fair. Like, he was a leftover from the previous regime, from the Stan Drayton era, so you don't know if necessarily if they would have recruited him at high school. But he's a guy that's been there for a year and stuck around. So, yeah, I think that's perfectly fair to consider that he's in there running for that.
Yeah, I also don't think he had a bad spring. And not that anybody's, I mean, he wasn't part of this question, but there were times in the spring where I thought, okay, he looks like he belongs. Like, looks like he has a fairly strong arm. So, I mean, it really is at the end of the day. I know this is an obvious statement, and they obviously pursued guys in the portal initially who had starting experience. I mean, I think, you know, they don't really talk about him now, but Mason McKenzie was their guy, ended up at Boston College. He would have been a good fit for them. Again, we have to see how he does at Boston College, but he had previous starting experience in college. But all these guys, you know, you're hoping, okay, does Jaxon Smolik show the traits of a Big Ten recruit? Does Ajani Sheppard show the traits of a Rutgers recruit or Washington? I mean, he was a Rutgers recruit initially, but
Well, he was an Old Dominion recruit before that.
yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They obviously want one of these two guys to emerge, but you know, bringing up Cam Boykin's name is interesting because again, there are times where he has looked like he's belonged, and they haven't. He's not out of it yet. So
I'll just say this to put a bow on the quarterback situation. They brought in 5 new quarterbacks with the last class, right? 2 transfers, 3 freshmen. I'm like wagering they will not bring a freshman quarterback in this upcoming recruiting class, which is part of you go, yeah, well, if Jaxon and Ajani don't work out, they're just going to bring in a guy from the portal, which is true. But I think that also kind of lends it to themselves that they feel like they might have not missed on the freshman quarterback that they're bringing in, like they already had, like with Brady and Lamar Best. I think from that 3, if they thought they were all just like, look, our scouting was wrong, these guys don't belong here, they would have brought freshman quarterback in with this class, and I don't think that's the plan.
question number 2 from Sunny Out: if you're on campus and you need a bite to eat, where are you going, and what are you ordering? Mike, I want to start with you. Do you have any? You're new, but you very much were here a lot in the spring. Do you have a place that resonated with you?
John, I see how it is. You pick the fat guy first. I get it. I didn't know. It's fine. You don't know. Don't
call you fat.
I get it. No, pick the fat guy about the food question. It's cool. It's
No.
cool.
John,
To all of our listeners out there, Mike Livingston is very, very much not fat, but go ahead.
I haven't tried a lot yet.
That's all right.
Canes, honestly.
All right.
I don't have one near home, and having one right there is not good.
Okay.
Always Canes.
Kyle, do you have, well, obviously when you come back, like to support Meg, the Broad Street Run, you go to Maxie's, or
I was thinking about that this week because usually we get like every 6 months we get a "What's your food truck of choice?" question, and I think to myself, if that question ever gets asked again, I would have to like take a step back because I just don't know anymore. With just where are you going to eat on campus, I'm a Maxie's truther. I've been a Maxie's truther for 16, 17 years. I wasn't part of the graduating class of whatever, like Ryan down here, because I did it for the love of the game. But I would say Maxie's is where I'm going.
Ryan, do you have an answer other than like in season 11, we talked at length about how you and Colin were doing like the Maxie's challenge, and I mean, do you have other spots on campus? I know that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you can't say Maxie's, but I'm also prompting you to say something else other than Maxie's. Love their pizza, not dissing Maxie's, but if Maxie's was closed, imagine the horror. If
Whoa.
Then Kyle's would pop up in its place.
No,
I would
I don't
quickly
mean-
fill.
I don't mean permanently closed. Like, let's say you were on campus right now. Maxie's was like, hey, you had to close today. Where are you going to go, Ryan?
Oh my God. After just wandering around campus, just heartbroken. Listening to End of the Road by Boyz II Men. And it just raining down on me. I
think Bone Thugs and Harmony at the Crossroads would have also been acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put on Drew or Drew Hill.
Yeah. All right, again, just to reassure you here, I don't think Maxie's is going anywhere. Let's just say
If Maxie's is gone, I've been dead for years. Like there's no scenario where I allow that to happen.
If Maxie's like somehow So if Max is gone, I don't even want to think about that scenario. But
All right,
like,
they're taking a day
um,
off. They took a day trip to the shore. Max is going to be
As a
back tomorrow.
as a company, a bar took a day trip to the
Bar?
shore.
Yeah, they did. They did.
I would probably do Mexican grill stand or honey truck. Get a shrimp quesadilla in a Mountain Dew from
Mm.
from Mexican grill stand. Actually, not even honey truck. I would do the foot long truck and get a buffalo chicken sandwich with a Baja Blast Mountain Dew and fries.
Mm. Okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
Mm,
Mountain Dew.
Baja
that's the
Blast Mountain Dew. When did they start bottling that? Like only like 2 or 3 years ago, right?
oh
It
yeah,
used to just be Taco Bell.
it's the best soda out there. Mountain Dew is the best soda out there. It can't really.
I think Diet Mountain Dew is up there with like is the closest thing to the real product.
Real.
Like Diet Mountain Dew, Diet Dr Pepper are like very similar to like this is just Dr Pepper and Mountain Dew, which is not always the case.
Kyle, which former Temple football coach loved Mountain Dew?
Jeff Collins.
Yeah, loved it.
Then Jeff Collins, I think at the time Temple, it might still be, was upset to find out that Temple was a Coke University and that he was not allowed to walk around with. So that was when he started doing the Styrofoam cup and then go from there.
Yeah, I'd go with one of my old standbys, Orient Express, over by Gladfelter Hall. Not that I don't like Maxie's or Mexican Grill Stand or Raising Cane's or any of the other places you guys listed out. So, but yes, tons of places to eat on Temple's campus. My friend Mark texted me this question, as he has in the past. I've lived through some bad offensive lines since 2019. Is this group actually good, or do they just stay mostly healthy? So this is something we alluded to earlier in the pod, and I think this is going to be it's something we asked about. We asked Casey Keeler about this, and then Clayton Barnes talked about it in his spring press conference, and I wrote about it in my preview. So again, he's right. Mark is right. After 2019, well, the program itself just wasn't good, and they just had bad luck with injuries. They just were not a good offensive line. They were steady, and I asked Casey about this yesterday. Can they go from steady to being like, one of the best lines in the league? So again, quick primer here. Kevin Terry, MCL injury, right around this time last August, and Jacoby Hill steps up, never lets go of the job again. Eric King, one of the best left guards in the conference. Grayson Maines solid at center. Jackson Pruitt has held on to that right guard spot. Luke Watson right now looks like the guy at right tackle. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. He's not coming off of surgery this time around. And Kevin Terry looks like your swing tackle. He does look a little bigger and stronger and more confident. So they are, I think, worlds better and more stable than they were in years past. But that's a great question, Mark. I think that's what we're going to be finding out, as we talked about earlier. Is it that we're going to see some days where the O-line gets the better of the defense or vice versa? I think they're good, but there's obviously room for them to improve. Does John Stone actually push Grayson Maines? There was a time yesterday with this, whatever their second team unit was yesterday, Stone was playing center, and then Grayson Maines kicked out to be the second team left guard. I think there are at least some possibilities there. So I think they're good. How good? We'll find out. I don't know if you guys wanted to chime in on this one.
The Rod Carey offensive lines weren't bad even after 2019.
Yeah,
like
they
2021.
were, yeah,
Michael Neese is in the NFL right
Neese.
now, still
Yep,
in there.
yep.
Isaac Moore was a guy that was very good left tackle, started as a true freshman as left tackle. Adam Klein, very good guy, could play inside and outside. CJ Perez, good center. Like they had like good offensive line.
More the Drayton era, right?
Yeah, it's once they got to Stan Drayton and Chris Wiesand came back for part two that offensive line like it was just not good whatsoever. To the point that last year, just having like an average offensive line looked night and day compared to the Stan Drayton era. I think we talked about this. It's really hard for me to gauge either line until you're actually playing other teams because we've seen in the past where a coach will ramp up their praise for one of them, saying the defensive line's so much better this year, the offensive line's so much better this year, and then it just ends up being that they played against a bad counterpart. So I think on paper, the consistency can't do anything but help. And I think it's the one position that you're losing, like bringing in a guy like Luke Watson, who you think you can plug and play in there, helps. I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be like a top 10 offensive line in the nation. I think they have a chance to be a better offensive line at the American Conference level.
Stapler01 from the message board, that's a screening from our message board, asks us, what differences have you noticed, if any, between the way practices are run under Keeler compared to previous coaching staffs? Kyle, would you say it's basically like, is it that they're double repping at both ends of the field? Maybe that's the
Yeah,
main difference.
I don't think that's
I know that
like
that's
it's
not, I don't want to say it's a revolutionary thing.
sure.
Other programs do it, but
Yeah,
that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
yeah. I think that's more reflective of Tyler Walker than it is
Yeah.
Casey Keeler, and that's not a slight against Keeler. He's the one that proved it. I think Tyler Walker brought that from Montana State and said, "Hey, this works." And with last year with them having a quarterback battle, they especially helped. And this year they have a quarterback battle, so it should help. I think that's a big difference. But other than that, like I don't want to paint the picture that Stan Drayton had like terrible practices or anything. Like
No,
everybody
not
just
at
didn't
all.
have the talent. Like they weren't that talented of a team, a program. But they like the practices were fine. I think I don't think it's a situation where like Rod Carey, like you would hear people go to Rod Carey practices and leave, like alums stuff like that, and they'd go, "This feels like a MAC program." Like just like the way like the music they're playing, the juice on the sidelines, the way they're going through it just didn't feel like a winning program. And I haven't heard that about the Casey Keeler practices.
Yeah. Very well said. Samuel O'Neill dipping into our mailbag here, a former Temple News editor-in-chief who's now a reporter at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Here's Sam's question from Twitter. Hello, Al Scoop team, longtime fan, first-time question asker. How much of a drop-off, if any, will there be at quarterback going from Evan Simon to Jaxon Smolik? Additionally, well, let's ask that one first, and then he's got a Temple News-related question here. That's a tough one. It's a good question, Sam. It's hard to answer because, I mean, you give the edge to Evan Simon because he at least had started a few games at Temple, certainly, and then at Rutgers in the past, whereas Jaxon Smolik has yet to start a game. I don't know that we knew that Evan was going to go for 26 touchdown passes, 2 picks, and like there was the whole bit about like, oh, I'm sleeping at the facility, but he went out there and he took the job. So you'd have to say that right now Jaxon Smolik has to prove it, but there's an upside there where I think if, let's say, on the optimistic side, earlier I said, well, you got to look at Brady Palmer. What if Brady Palmer has to play because the other two guys don't cut it? On the flip side of it, let's try to be optimistic. What if Jaxon Smolik is as good as advertised? Or what if Ajani Sheppard is as good as advertised in terms of like the traits that got them to the Big Ten? If Jaxon Smolik looks more like Casey Keeler said, like he did in the spring game, then there may not only be a drop off, there might be an opportunity for Tyler Walker to open up the playbook a little bit more. I think I've said numerous times, and you guys have too, that Evan Simon was a better scrambler and more mobile than people gave him credit for. But I think the hope is that Jaxon Smolik gives you some upside. So right now there's a drop off in that you're looking at a bunch of guys that have never started a college game. But the hope is that there's not a drop off in the fact that there's an area of improvement there. Mike, what do you think of this one?
I just wanted to chime in and say that this kind of backs up my prior point about the Smolik complex is what I'm going to start calling it.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to Sam at all. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, but no mention of Ajani Sheppard. What's the fall off immediately assuming Jaxon Smolik is the starter? I just think that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike is banging the drum for Ajani Sheppard and telling everybody, hold your horses. The starter has not been named yet.
Which, fair, but I mean, I don't want to say it's a done deal, but I feel like it is trending closer to that than it is it being an open competition. I'll just say this. It's a little bit revisionist history and like I agree with your sentiment, John. I'm like, well, Evan Simon came in, he had 10 starts the year before, and he had started against Iowa, Rutgers, and blah, blah. Despite that, when I was talking to people last spring, I was being told we need to go add somebody from the portal. Yep. Ideally, Evan Simon's your second, third quarterback going into the year. Yep. Obviously, they added Giovanni McCoy from the portal, but Evan beats him out. Evan Simon has a pretty good year, falters a little bit towards the end, but has a pretty good year. So even though he was a starter, there was still like enough like unknown or thinking that there was a ceiling that they were like, we got to go add somebody else. I get the impression, like you said, I think Jaxon Smolik's ceiling is higher than Evan Simon. I think his floor is lower than Evan Simon. Like I think if it works and they really like have the ability, like okay, we hit on this, we trust our scouting, we trusted the Big 11 tape and what got him as a guy originally committed to Penn State, and we were able to take advantage of that. We think he fits the offense. Then I think this offense can be better than it was last year. I think it has just as much, if not more, weapons than last year. I think if it comes crashing down and either Ajani or Jaxon are to that level, then there's the potential for this to just go off the rails.
Sam's second question. Additionally, is the Lawrence Okenye pressure makes diamonds frame photo still proudly displayed in the newsroom? Yes, it is, Sam. Lawrence is another former Temple News editor-in-chief. He went on to work at Politico after graduation, covered labor relations down in D.C., is now a senior media relations specialist with SHRM down in Virginia. So, yep, Sam, still in the office. So, to answer your question there. Couple more questions to get to here before we close out our first episode of our 12th season. Next one, also from the this one's from the message board from Berkshire Owl is the screen name. And this is basketball related. I assume that at this point, the last roster spot will likely remain unfilled. Do you all see anything else coming up? You shouldn't. I can understand why you might assume that, but I wouldn't assume that it's going to be remaining unfilled. Here with the 5-for-5 thing and everything breaking loose now, yeah, do I think that they would like to get a big? Yes, but I wouldn't be entirely shocked if like Darian Ford might be a possibility. Do I think that they need another big more than they need another guard? Yeah, but I wouldn't assume that that last roster spot is going to remain unfilled. They maybe are going to have some money to play with, and maybe they might have something else. So yes, I would see something else coming up, whether it's a big or maybe a guy like Darian Ford coming back into the mix. Kyle, what do you think about this?
Agreed. I think it's important to remember Fisher's first year. They didn't add Sam Hoffman until the day before campus, like before season started or the semester started. I would agree. I think with if 5-for-5 ends up being a full-on thing to the point that 5-for-5 is a thing. If it becomes the point that it gets retrofitted back to the class of 2022, whether that's through a court ruling or a congressional bill, whatever it might be, then I think, like, would you rather keep that spot open or take a guy that was an all-conference guard last year? Like, ideally, like, if Darian Ford's open to it, you want to take that back. But unless Mike Eric is coming through that door, I don't think there's any huge immediate impact center with Temple ties out there that is going to benefit from this ruling.
I'd love to have Michael Eric walk back through that door.
He's like, my knees are just gone, man. I'm 37 years old. And it's fine.
Great big man. Good dude. Last question to get to here from our friend Brian Mermelstein, Temple grad. Brian, you're going to be doing some work for him this week coming up, right?
Yeah, tonight.
Merm is Kyle, you've met him. Mike, you'll probably meet Brian Mermelstein at some point. So very skilled video guy, freelance video guy, and really kind of runs the whole media operations for the Danny Rumpf Classic. So that is in its 21st year now. So Merm's question: which former Temple basketball player are you most excited to see at the Rumpf? Heisir Miller, Nick Jourdain, Jaleel White, Raleigh Hollis Jefferson, or Damian Dunn? Only one of these guys played his entire career at Temple, and that's Raleigh Hollis Jefferson.
Oh, that's that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else left.
I mean, Merm says it. It's like a big cliche. You never know who's going to walk in the door. They usually don't, with all due respect, these Temple guys, they're usually not saying you never know who's going to show up, and then Nick Jourdain walks in. They're like, that's the Rumpf. It's more like Tyrese Maxey showing up.
Or
didn't James Harden show up? Oh, wow.
What if LeBron's there?
That'd be electric.
He was in the city this week. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Look at Kyle trying to throw some intrigue out there.
He slams and he finds Ryan. And he just looks at Ryan. This was you.
What if Ryan gets an exclusive like one-on-one with LeBron? That'd be so great.
Ignoring the they all left aspect and some other stuff with some of them. I mean, Damian Dunn was a hell of a player at Temple.
Yeah.
So I would say Damian Dunn is going to the cliche of like old man game, the Rumpf.
Ryan, go back into your mind's eye and pretend that you're older and that you saw just game after game of basketball player. What's that?
Let's see that you saw any of these players at Temple.
Yeah,
I saw all of them besides Raleigh.
You saw? Yeah, I guess you did.
I was a freshman for Dames last year.
Okay.
And Nick.
Who would you want?
Wait, so McKee's last year was your freshman year?
Yeah.
So who would you want to see?
Probably the one I'm most excited for is Damian, and that's more so just because he's the only one out of these players who I haven't seen playing the Rumpf yet. Like I've been helping out with Merm since 2023, so like Heisir and Nick and Ja were there last year, and Raleigh plays there a lot. So I've seen all of them.
Is Rondé gonna be there?
Rondé played, I think, like 2 years ago.
Do you know who's gonna be there? Or is
No,
it?
I do not. I don't usually know until like the day of, because sometimes they have people like they show up for the day and they leave, and then like say maybe they're not here for like night one, but they're here for night two. So yeah, so for me it's Dame, just because been able to watch all those players play in the round, but just not Dame.
Mike, did you, as a young Mike Livingston growing up in Bridgeport, are you familiar with these names? Did you watch Temple basketball growing up, or were you just locked in on Mizzou basketball? You're like, I'm gonna get out of here, Mom. I'm gonna get out of here, Dad. I'm gonna leave this area. I'm gonna leave this stinking area. I'm not saying it all like that. I know Kyle's just laughing at me. He's like, that was a weird bit.
I religiously watched Temple football with my dad growing up, but that's it.
Okay.
I never watched Temple basketball. I will simply say Raleigh Hollis Jefferson, because I used to go on these stretches in high school where me and my friends would watch ridiculously obscure basketball highlight reels on Saturday nights. This was a tradition for 4 years. And we would watch Raleigh Hollis Jefferson, I can't say his name anymore, highlight reels, which were just, that's about as deep as we got into the chasm of random college and NBA.
No Jake Cadino highlight reels.
Mike's a Carroll guy. You're an Archbishop Carroll guy.
I am an Archbishop Carroll
Does
guy.
Derek Jones have a special place in your heart?
I got a custom Derek Jones jersey.
Wow.
Carroll Derek Jones Jr. jersey.
Yeah.
And on the front, it says Carroll with 3 R's, so I have never been able to wear it.
Whose mistake was that?
The company that I ordered it from in
The sweatshop that he bought it from. Yeah.
Correct. That's great.
Derek Jones Jr. does hold a special place in my heart for how much he does not care about Carroll.
I would love to see Damian Dunn. I'll give Jaleel a shout out. I randomly saw him 2 weeks ago now at the Rio Grande Planet Fitness when Chelsea and I were there at the gym. So we have a place in Villas. It's right near there. And then Whitesboro, New Jersey, which is like just outside of like Cape May and Wildwood, is still home for Ja. And so saw him and caught up for a few minutes. So he's still trying to get back in the G League. So saw him a couple weeks ago. Still playing this summer. So I mean, it would be fun to catch up with any of these guys. I think Nick Jourdain had like the shortest tenure, right? But
Wasn't he here 3 years?
Yeah, I guess he was. Yeah.
Last minute addition, and then they
thought he was like a Big East level talent. He was getting Seton Hall offers. So, but yeah,
played in the G League last year.
Yeah, Ryan, you might be talking to all these guys.
I tell you, I ran into Mike. I told you I saw Mike Malone at the Outer Banks.
You did, yes.
Yeah, just in line at coffee. It's a reminder that no matter how successful you get, NBA champion, UNC coach, they're all the damn exact same. He's dressed in complete UNC gear, like just going to pick up his coffee. Like they all just want to be like, oh yeah, come here, I'll kiss the ring, I'll shake your hand, take a picture with me.
You know, Mike, they call it a venti.
It was not even Starbucks.
They brew their own coffee here, Mike. So thanks for sticking with us for the first episode of our 12th season. Again, I want to remind you all about the subscription sale that OwlScoop is running through On3. Again, from now until August 12th, take advantage of our fall camp sale. You get 75% off the first year of your OwlScoop membership. It's for new customers only. Just $29.99 for the entire year of the best Temple sports coverage you're going to find anywhere. So thank you all for tuning in to The Scoop. We'll be with you next week. We'll have a lot more preseason football coverage to send your way, and we'll talk to you soon.